Good morning. As millions of households face another winter of high energy bills, the regulator OFGEM tells Breakfast it will review standing charges by the end of the year.
The energy regulator OFGEM has told this programme that proposals to restructure standing charges when it comes to energy bills are going to be set out by the end of the year.
And Ben can explain a bit more about this. Standing charges is one of the things that people get very annoyed about, isn't it?
Yeah, and the reason being, there's not much you can do about them. You can't adjust how much energy you use to affect what those standing charges are on your bill. And we could get the results of that review you mentioned, possibly even within weeks. Let me explain. Because while the price per unit of gas and electricity you use may be falling, standing charges, those fixed charges, are going up, not down. And last month, the head of OFGEM admitted to us those charges are high and said the regulator is reviewing them. They've since told us firm proposals will be set out by the end of the year. Let me remind you exactly what these standing charges are. They are the fixed daily fees that you have to pay, a bit like the line rental for your phone. They're charged for a gas and electricity connection, and they're added to your bill regardless of how much or how little energy you use. And those fees can vary quite significantly depending on where you live and who your supplier is. Why do they exist? Well, they're supposed to cover the so-called non-energy costs involved in supplying the energy to your home. Things like maintaining the network of cables or pipes, the cost of sending staff to do meter readings or repairs, and providing call centres. But these fees have gone up significantly. Back in April 2019, the average charge per year for a typical household was around £180. That's now climbed to almost £300 a year. And OFGEM says it's because suppliers have had to absorb the costs of the energy companies that went bust in recent years. Many of you got in touch when we last talked about this on Breakfast. Our cost of living correspondent Coletta Smith went to meet Jane and Leon to hear how the standing charges are affecting them.
Good boy. You can sit down.
At the moment, Jane feels like she's having to perform magic tricks to afford her energy bills.
Good boy.
When this year's statement has come in, they wanted £288 off me. I said, I don't get that a fortnight. I can't. There's no way can I do that. Unless I go rob a bank, which I can't run right fast. So.
She's got arthritis and blood cancer, and both conditions get worse in the cold.
I've got draft excluders, I've got brushes on my letterbox. We do turn things off, you know. I don't think we can do much more than we already are doing.
And it's this standing charge in particular that makes Jane angry, because it's eating up more than half of her gas and electricity charges.
I don't expect it for note, you know. I use it, I pay for it. But I shouldn't have to be worrying about it. Oh, yeah.
No matter how much Jane turns off the lights and keeps the heating off, like every household, she's still hit with the same standing charge payments. There have been growing calls to completely change the way standing charges are applied, first coming from charities, and now MPs are joining in that call too, saying it's unfair, that it hits people on prepayment meters hardest, and those who can afford it the least end up paying the biggest chunk of their bill on standing charges.
The standing charge per day is 55.6 pence a day.
Over the last 18 months, Leon's standing charges have doubled.
You're being charged for nothing. If you use no gas, no electric whatsoever, if you turn your fridge off, if you turned everything off, it's still costing you like 84, 85 pence a day, which is like nearly £320 a year.
For those who live alone, the standing charges feel particularly tough.
I don't think there should be standing charges at all, and if there are running costs, that's fair enough. It should be minimal.
The regulator OFGEM told Breakfast they were looking into the issue.
Potentially it could change, but this is not simple. This is simply, I mean, the cost of the system remain fixed. If you change around how they're charged for, there will be losers as well as winners.
Now OFGEM has told me that concrete proposals will be set out by the end of the year. And in the meantime, suppliers are free to structure their tariffs as they see fit, which is exactly what's happened for Jane. As a vulnerable customer, her supplier Octopus have just agreed to waive her standing charge for the next 6 months.
Relief that I'm going to be paying £70, £80 a month, but it's going to be going all to my bill, all to what I owe them. It's not going to be half of it going to standing charge.
Get it.
But unless the government or the regulator change the way the system runs, she's still facing the same problem in the new year. Coletta Smith, BBC News in Bradford.
Well, a lot of you got in touch when we last spoke about this on the programme. Adam said his prepayment gas meter only supplies his boiler for heating and hot water, hasn't used it or topped it up since March, yet it now has a debt on it of more than £35. Similarly, Kay from Driffield said it is horrendous. She said, we have an empty house to sell, we're still paying £25 a month, and that's all standing charge.